let me join the rest of the country to bring my personal, deep condolences to the family and relatives of our brother Keith Muhakanizi, who has left us to be with the Lord. Without missing my words, this is a loss that is so profound and is so deep in our country. Muhakanizi was one of the rare people that we had in our country. As you know, our country had so many challenges. We had those patriots who went to fight in the bush to bring peace, and they lost their lives there. They are heroes of our time and of our generation. There are those who fought intellectually and did everything possible to make our country free. Keith was one of a kind. He did not run away into exile. He did not go to the bush. He stayed in the Ministry of Finance, working as a young, humble, brilliant civil servant, serving his country. When the country was liberated in 1986, Keith joined the team of other intellectuals in the Ministry of Finance that gave a good name to the Ministry of Finance. At every time you walked into the Ministry of Finance and you found the caliber of civil servants who held sway and were able to convince the head of state and the government to follow their recommendations, Keith was a principal player. He stood side by side with my brother Tumsimbe Mutebile, my brother and friend Kasami, my friend Kitabile, my very many friends, Shailap, and many others that I don't have to enumerate now. Others were picked and they went to work in the World Bank and African Development Bank and other international institutions. Keith stayed behind and was part of the people who held the helm. He was trustworthy. He was believed. He was committed. He was so committed that his commitment was always carried by passion in his beliefs about how to improve and sustain and hold steadfastly our economy. He was very forthright and he did not mince his words. He was someone who wanted to express his convictions, no matter whether he was in the minority at the time, even when it coming to oppose what the leadership wanted. Keith would hold sway and present what he thought was the best for the country. At his prime, when he became the permanent secretary and secretary of the treasury, he really took charge. I know that he was one of the very early risers and who would report in his office at 7 a.m. And every time you wanted to meet him, he would say, come at 7, and he would be there. Keith had one weakness. He had very little time for mediocrity. You know, at a very high level in life, you are called upon to tolerate mediocrity. Keith failed to do that until his dying time. And he always would tell any mediocre who would come to waste his time, I have given you 5 minutes, have no time. But even if you came and he told you that, if he had a good point to make, he could spend hours on end with you. That's why he was always surrounded by brilliant people. By the time before he just fell sick, he had started a system where he appointed a committee of people from private sector and from government who would meet in the morning once a month to discuss the way forward, especially just before the coronavirus and during the coronavirus and after the coronavirus. How do we get our economy out of its current doldrums? And how do we encourage exports and bring in investments? And I was lucky to be appointed by him to be his advisors in that committee, representing the mining and the oil and gas sector, and also as chairman of the private sector foundation. Since he became ill, I have not heard of that committee meeting again. Keith was a member of the Presidential Investors Round Table, where I also used to appear quite a lot. And Keith, in his very intellectual and gifted class, he would hold his way. And he would convince the Presidential Investors Roundtable for the line that he would like to take. Keith was also a family man. His wife Janet was always a host to me and my friends. We are lucky as Kampala Associated Advocates to also act as his private lawyers. So once in a while we would visit Keith just to listen to him and attend to his legal issues. But out of this, of course, developed a very good, respectable friendship. We went, me and my managing partner, Joseph Matsiko, to see him when he was coming back from Turkey. And we had prime time with him. He wasn't shy to give us a detailed explanation about his medical challenges. Keith was not someone who had many friends, because he didn't have time. Any money that was paid to him as a salary or as a wage or as an emolument or an allowance from government, it was deserving, because he worked all the time. I don't think that anybody can fault a Keith, friend or foe, that he didn't put his time in the service of our country. He worked full time. Sometimes I would even wonder whether he would have time for lunch. Very rarely would Keith go for these lunches. He was always, I think, eating in his office. I know Keith at a personal level, who have been friends. I must count myself lucky to call myself his friend. He gave me a cow. I went to pick it from his home in Antonde, and we had a day together. We watered the cows. I selected the cow I loved. And Keith would not do things like that. Then Tom, Dick, and Harry. So I count myself lucky. And thank you, Janet. Janet, I know Keith has left a solid wife behind, and he will take care of Keith's interests and maintain the family together. Thank you, Dennis, your brother. Thank you, Mr. Karuhanga. These are two brothers of Keith, whom I know very well, and who have also been my close friends. And I want to thank the children of Keith for doing your best to make sure that you do not let his name down. The country has lost, the family has lost. But the good thing about the family is that he has not left us without offsprings. And I know he will hold your own and he will maintain the name that he has given us. Because his name, Muhakanizi, is known in Uganda, and you should use it to develop it and do more than he did. I thank God for giving me an opportunity to work with Keith on many different fronts, of traveling with him abroad to attend some meetings, of attending meetings in the Ministry of Finance. And I know that his departure in our country is leaving a big hole. But then God has decided to take you and not to allow you to go through too much pain and suffering. And your friends will miss you. My family will miss you. I will miss you. You're a man of letters, you're a man of dignity. Please take it with you to heaven. And thank you for leaving a good name behind.